Yeah, Violet's favorite map here, Daybreak. Now, I know a little bit about Violet's TVZ, going a long way back. When he was playing the Fight Club match, I think it was against the STC. That was a long time ago, way before Jan's reign. And one of the strategies that Violet likes to play the most against is Terran going mech, building a lot of units from factories, tanks, Thors, and Hellions, and so on. But Polt, he doesn't ever really seem to do that very much, does he?
No, not
Even
at all.
in TVT, where it's kind of a prominent strategy, Polt does not abide by the mech.
Yeah, we saw it against Bomber. He loves to have just a few tanks that are sitting out there and using mobile bio to actually do the real damage to his opponent. But here we are, the game is loading up, the Thundersticks are in the air, we're ready to jump into game number 2 here of Polt versus Violet.
IPL 5. Welcome to IPL 5 Daybreak.
And we are on Daybreak, and in the top right-hand corner, we have our red Zerg player sponsored by Azubu. He is...
Azubu Violet.
A little more support that time. Violet trying to tie things up here. And looking with much concentration, but he's got to go up against this guy, a beast of a Terran player in the lower left-hand corner, our blue Terran player from Team SCV Live. He is...
TSL Polt.
He just got like standing ovations from 3 parts of the room just for his name being called. That's awesome.
Yeah, super awesome.
All right, and we were told to instruct everyone in the crowd as well that if you want to pick up any last-minute GSL merchandise, any last-minute IPL merchandise, the store is actually closing right now, so make sure you do pick that up sometime soon. But we're going to see another command center first pop out of Polt. No real surprise out of Violet yet, but you can see the voting is actually a lot closer. In the previous game, it was heavily favored towards Polt, but a lot of people thinking that Violet's going to have a good chance to come back.
Yeah, people do love to vote for that underdog. Of course, you get more points if you vote on the underdog here, and you're right. And also, of course, people love StarCraft, man. They'd like to see more games, not just a 3-0 wipeout, but they'd like to see games go to game number 4 or 5 as they're so close and so tense. And you really get to know a player when they're going deep in a best of 5.
Yeah, I mean, because a best of 5 is a completely different setting than a best of 3, because you have a couple more opportunities, to throw in something weird, to throw your opponent off a little bit, to kind of dictate the pace of the entire match. In a best of 3, you maybe get a chance to do that, but one game and then all of a sudden you're on the brink of elimination, and you got to kind of rely on a little bit more standard play.
Now, I always love reading those interviews on Team Liquid where one of the community people, they translate the interviews from the Korean pros, from GSL and so forth, people like Seeker and others. I'm always very grateful for those. And what we see in those interviews, for example, I think it was Sniper who said, since the best of 7 of the Codes finals is going to be a best of 7, well, obviously, since the finals is going to be a best of 7, he didn't think it was going to be so much necessarily just about pure skill, but also about endurance. Because really, after game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you start to get tired. Your body starts to get tired. You start getting mentally spent and exhausted as well. And it really matters, like, how focused can you stay even as things are heating up.
That's right, and one of these players, as soon as they're done with this set, they have to go play Lenok in a best of 5 and possibly a best of 3 right afterwards. So there's still a lot of StarCraft remaining here. Now, obviously, a very different start for Violet. He decided to open with gas. He got his Zergling speed. He's not opening with that 6-queen build that we saw last time, and a little bit more traditional Violet play here. Polt, on the other hand, actually nothing's looked that much different for him. He's got his factory coming up at about the right time. There we go. That is actually a big difference as that command center just now started. So if he decides to go the bio route, probably going to be a little bit slower, probably going to be that double engineering bay going into like a 2-2 push rather than that quick 1-1 timing attack with Hellions and Marauders.
Yeah, definitely. And also, it's really cool to see what Terrans are doing against Zerg these days, just how they're structuring their best of X plays, their best of 3 and their best of 5 plays. if you want to prepare very successfully against an opponent in a best of, like in a multiple map series, you'd like to ideally always show like you're doing the same thing in the start, always show the same amount of units at the same time, but have it actually mean different things. If you always say, well, if I build my supply depot here, it means I'm on 3 CCs. If I build my supply depot there, I'm on 2 CCs. You don't want to give those kind of tells away.
Well, look at this. Violet running in with 2 Zerglings, gets a good scout and picks off 2 SCVs on top of it. So a very successful 2 Zergling run by there.
Yeah, very nice job there.
So limiting his opponent's economy already. Now, of course, Polt with his early third command center, it's not going to bother him too much. He's going to be able to open up very aggressively with pretty decently high tech. But look at this. He's actually going after a second factory, and we've seen him do this a couple of times too. We've seen a few players actually opt for this, usually getting Blue Flame right away, and then moving into a giant Hellion push.
Yeah, Blue Flame, I mean, this is going to be a very perfect map for it. It's going to be very hard to wall off there on that third hatchery. So maybe he's going to wait until the drones will be transferred to the third base, or maybe he's going to try and even find a hole in the natural expansion. And right now we see 2 evolution chambers walling off there at the natural expansion, but by no means is it enough just yet.
All right, well, that bunker is well positioned. It looks like he does manage to still snag a mule there, so successful job. And this is a little bit of a giveaway. Polt has just shown a lot of Hellions there.
Yeah, that's more Hellions, I think, than you could have had from just one factory with reactors. So probably Violet knows here. He's making a lot of links. Once again, he had no Roach Warren yet. He's actually making the Roach Warren reactively now. So he indeed did think, you're not going to do that Hellion Marauder attack again, but now he is making the Roach Warren reactively.
Yeah, and we can see his Overlord now gets a perfect scout, so if there was any doubt in his mind before, he knows exactly what's happening now. I like what Polt's doing initially. Hellions are underrated at killing larvae at each of these hatcheries. A couple of those are actually used quicker than they can be shot down, though, so Violet will be able to get some use from it. Again, running it with Zerglings, though, and doing economic damage. He's already killed 5 workers in this game, and it's usually the Terran player that takes the initiative this early on to get some economic damage done.
And Hellions are overrated in killing eggs. They were not able to take those down at all, and the Overlords popped out safely.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And Blue Flame Hellion is shown, and there's a complete wall up at the front, or there was a second ago before all those spine crawlers moved for Violet. So most of the strategy for Polt is revealed now. Violet has a pretty good handle on this, and certainly he's had time to prepare for any such attack. Although that many Hellions is actually going to take out a couple of roaches on a spine crawler very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just the 1, 2, 3 roaches to defend, he could actually kill this hatchery, even though it does take a while. But as it stands, enough roaches come in and Violet is able to secure that expansion. So Polt achieved something, but maybe not as much as he would have liked to.
And these Zerglings at the front are going to be driven away pretty quickly. Now, Polt is obviously following this up with 3 barracks, even with the 2 factories right away. Even he won't commit to mech afterwards. So wants to fall back on his safe standard bio play. We mentioned that there was likely to be 2 engineering base before there are. So he's playing towards a much later game here, but hasn't been able to get much damage done with these Hellions. Stopped to transfer drones over to the third, yes, but no drone kills necessarily.
Yeah, no drone kills, and that's of course your ideal goal for Hellions. Instead, it's Violet who's getting the worker kills here as he swoops in time and time again with those Zerglings, finding holes where there should be none normally. But it's just a great job for Violet to find those holes.
That was a really nice play, though, by Polt, dragging some Hellions up from the bottom, though, and he traps all those Zerglings. So that last round wasn't able to get any done, but Violet was actually cost-effective enough with his first few run-throughs that losing those Zerglings right there didn't matter as much. Now, he's going up his tech tree. We do actually have drops being researched. Literal Sax is on the way.
Violet is one of those players who finds very creative attack types. He often makes use of Nidus Network or drops, and normally you wouldn't expect that necessarily at this moment. He employs drops a lot against mech, but of course we're seeing Polt going for bio, so pretty interesting. Gonna wait and see what he's gonna do with that. Maybe gonna continue Zergling drops into the main base. Since Zergling have been the thorn in Polt's side all along, maybe he wants to just continue doing that.
Zerglings with just a handful of roaches to make sure that they can tank Marines pretty effectively are really powerful. And look at this. Violet is already pre-scouting this. He's getting a great look around. He's got the Changeling in. He makes sure that there's not a lot of missile turrets there to cover his approach. And as we can see, Polt has actually left the right side of his main almost completely free of structures.
Yeah, that's true. And well, for Violet, we can also say that the Hellions, even though they didn't kill any drones, Violet did tech quite late to Lair, which means, and also he started mining so late from his third, which means he didn't have his fifth and sixth gas very quickly. And as such, it's very hard to assemble a very large amount of investors very early. So maybe that is why he's relying mostly on basic units and something like drops.
Well, he is making his way up to a fourth base and eventually starting to add on to the investor count. We see now he just started his first 6, so things like that are going to help him moving forward. Roaches being a little bit aggressive there, and Polt with good control will be able to splash damage and actually kill those pretty effectively, but he's going to lose 2 Hellions in the process. So, oh, here come the rest of the forces, though, and those are actually on the Zelnagin tower, so Polt actually couldn't get a read of those, and he's going to lose every single one of these Hellions, even though he's tucking them into the corner and killing a lot of Zerglings there. It's a pretty big loss to his army.
Very nice flank there by Violet, coming in with some Zerglings from the top, finally taking down all those Blue Flame Hellions. There's still 8 Hellions on the map, which were not part of that army.
Yeah, most of those are over at his third, actually, just sitting there behind the supply depot wall, which is actually a nice touch from Polt. But as we can see, now there's infestors out there, and all of the upgrades are hitting. Violet's moving up to Hive. He's moving up to that Spire you mentioned before. You time those both at the same time. They both take 100 seconds, and then you can move right up into Greater Spire afterwards. So Violet is going to have very, very quick Broodlord Infestor play here. And will Polt have the infrastructure necessary to combat those air forces?
It strikes me that Polt is playing much more defensively than some of the games we've been seeing from TVZ here in this tournament.
He very much is, and that's kind of uncharacteristic Polt, too. Not that he's the most aggressive Terran player in the world, but he likes to at least get out on the map with drops, put on some sort of pressure, but that's not really been given to him by Violet this time. Violet played defensive in the early part of the game, but since then, now he's everywhere. He's got creep spread going, he's got a fourth base up, he's teching aggressively, so Violet's playing this really well so far.
That's a really nice fungal growth. Doesn't kill anything more than just a Marine, and Polt is doing some really nice splitting. Baneling's coming in, but they won't connect with anything as Polt micros away from that.
Now, this is not a bad time for Polt, actually, because we've had an investment into Greater Spire, Broodlord tech, stuff like that, but those are not going to appear anytime soon. You can see Violet lost a lot of those early units around the Zelnagin tower, getting too close to those siege tanks. Even the infestors themselves dropping one by one. The fungal growth now not hitting that many forces afterwards, and Polt has built himself a pretty good position.
Yeah, significantly, Polt also started his 4th command center already. It's done, and now he's starting a 5th. It just shows how much Polt is on top of his economy, on top of his macro. And as that fight was halfway on the way, his 2-2 finish, so indeed it wasn't a bad timing at all for him. And right now, he wants to go in for the kill, maybe.
He wasn't sieged up, and that allowed Violet to kill the first line of units, but he didn't have enough stuff there to continue with it, and Violet lost a lot on the way out. So even though Polt lost a couple of tanks, a good portion of his bio, he's still got a very strong position. He can start getting to the edge of creep, making sure that it's not able to push any further on the map and delay for at least a little while. He still has not gotten a read on these Broodlords, though, as we don't see any more starports, we don't see any stop to the medevac production, no Vikings on the way, and still throwing in Marauders.
Yeah, as it stands, Violet would love to get some Broodlords out. It's going to be very hard to engage this without Broodlords, but he's not quite there yet, and Polt is starting to pressure on this 4th. Violet cannot afford to lose this 4th base, since Polt is on 4 base himself.
Yeah, and the infestor inside of his forces actually doesn't draw the fire of that many siege tanks, so they do fire on the majority of the forces up at the front. But here comes Violet now, and he is able to deal with most of these. He brought enough units this go around, and he is going to push Polt back off of this position, back to his 4th base.
Yeah, he crushed Polt's army there, even though there were a lot of siege tanks. Nice job there by Violet, very Zergling heavy, and yeah, just a few banelings to blow up some tanks.
And now we see Polt doing what Polt loves. He's got a lot of bio. He's even adding on a 3rd factory right now, but he doesn't have that much of an answer for these, what is it going to be in total? 5 Broodlords popping up right now.
Yeah, you're right. I just see 1 starport on the map right now for Polt. So is he maybe expecting some signature Ultralisk play from Violet?
I don't know, but that's not what he's going to get. He's done a good job of holding back the creep spread. I wouldn't think that he would expect it too much, but that's not what's going to hit him, and this could be very, very dangerous for Polt. 6 more Corruptors on the way now, and Violet is actually accumulating the forces pretty quickly to deal with this. Polt now finally making his first drop of the game. He's going to see that Greater Spire, and let's see if that actually prompts him to make a huge switch in tech. Yeah,
that's going to probably be the most significant part of this drop. Not the potential damage he might be able to do, just seeing that Greater Spire. And he sees it now, and let's see how he's going to react.
Yeah, well, he's still making those Marauders. He's still got his bio upgrades on the way. Still going to +2 ship weapons for
still making medevacs.
Yes, he has not canceled those. He's not started to put up any Vikings, and he is going to, well, be in for a bad surprise in just a second when he sieges up this position.
Of course, 3-3 is just finishing for Polt, so he's going to try and use this timing, but how does he get close enough to those Broodlords?
I don't know. There's enough infestors there to hold those Bioforces back for a bit, and the Broodlords can get in position. They'll start to unsiege those tanks pretty aggressively. Now Polt finally pulling back. There we go. Double Vikings being made, 2 more starports being put down, 11 Marines at a time. That's the switch that Polt needed to make, but it's coming maybe a little bit too late.
Yeah, Kevin, it's almost like he didn't actually see the Great Aspire. He dropped there, but he didn't maybe look at it, or maybe he thought Violet was in one of those situations where he had enough money to both make an Ultralisk Cavern and a Great Aspire, and was going to choose what units to make at a later time. So until Polt had a visual on those Broodlords, he didn't actually believe that they were necessarily on the field.
But Violet is certainly committing to those very heavily. He's got a lot of Broodlords now. He's even got +1 weapons that was researched for those, I believe. So they are going to be very strong. 4 Vikings being made at a time, but there's only 2 on the map to 8 Broodlords and 10 Corruptors, 7 Infestors. That's a very strong army from Violet.
Yeah, beautiful defense there by Violet as he splits exactly the right amount of Zerglings and Roaches to stop that double Medivac army there from killing that 5th base. Violet not mining from it yet. Now he is. Now he's mining from that bottom right base.
Oh!
The tanks are going to be going down, which is going to give these infestors free reign to get real up and close and friendly.
That's right, and everything gets fungled and locked down in position. The Broodlords are just raining down death from the sky. And these 4 Vikings at a time have not caught up to do any significant damage quite yet. It looks like Polt is going to decide that now is the time, but there's still so much energy left over on those infestors. Corruptors actually got a little bit too far forward there, and Polt was able to deal with the front line pretty effectively. But look at the reinforcements coming from the back. Still the fungal growths are hitting. Still the Marines are being locked down, and the Corruptors are dealing pretty effectively with what's in the air.
Yeah, and Violet just keeps remaking Zerglings behind this. He's going to try and kill as much as possible and then reinforce with the new waves. It looks like Violet has enough. Polt supply is plummeting. The Corruptors are taking down the Vikings and the Broodlords are practically untouched.
And look at the resources that Violet has banked behind this. He can reproduce a very high-tech army so quickly. He doesn't even have to do that. He's making a few Corruptors. He's making a ton of Zerglings right now to continue to put on pressure as quickly as possible.
And Polt is pulling all the stops right now. 11 Marines, 4 Vikings and 2 Thors at a time. But his standing army is being absolutely obliterated.
This needed to happen 6 or 7 minutes ago for it to be that effective.
Yeah.
And for now, Polt is about to lose his planetary fortress. Those mules, everything being fungal growth, and that planetary fortress goes down.
And so do Polt's hopes of winning this game probably go down. Violet is looking like he's going to equalize with the 1-1 here on Daybreak.
Now, those infestors are getting a little bit too far forward there, but it's not like it's that big of a concern. Violet does have an enormous lead in this game, and he is starting to push Polt back right now. We're 24 minutes in, so the main and natural are basically mined out. Even the third is getting very low. There's GG. Polt goes down. Violet ties it up. It's 1-1. So Violet making a very, very effective comeback there, playing the style that we more expected from him. Went up to a little bit earlier gas, got those infestors, made sure that he was able to put on pressure, and he was doing that very effectively from the very beginning. With those Zergling run-bys, he was killing a lot of SCVs and really keeping Polt back on his toes.
Yeah, I mean, every pro gamer is making roughly, I don't know, I haven't counted it exactly, but they're making tens of thousands of decisions every game. Little things to be sure, and a lot of it is relying on very well-honed and trained instincts.
Of course.
But the decisions that Violet made here, they were pretty near perfect. He didn't send any drones to his third base, he didn't spread himself too thin, and as such, he took almost no damage from those Blue Flame Hellions, besides just delays. He didn't actually lose a lot of stuff. And in that sense, Violet got ahead and got exactly the game where he wanted it and was able to take this game pretty comfortably.
Okay, well, that's going to set us up for game number 3 here. Don't forget, everyone.